longest-running American sitcom ever, has eerily predicted a number of events. In 2008, The Simpsons showed Homer trying to vote for Barack Obama in the US general election, but a faulty machine changed his vote. 4 years later, a voting machine in Pennsylvania had to be removed after it kept changing people's votes for Barack Obama to ones for his Republican rival, Mitt Romney. Some people maintain that The Simpsons predicted the 2014 outbreak of Ebola 17 years before it happened. In a scene from the episode Lisa Sacks, Marge suggests to a sick bot to read a book titled Curious George and the Ebola Virus. Ebola was first discovered in 1976, and though the latest outbreak has been the worst yet, it killed 254 people in the Congo in 1995 and 224 people in Uganda in 2000. The Simpsons parodied entertainers Siegfried and Roy in a 1993 episode. The magicians are viciously mauled by a trained white tiger while performing in a casino. In 2003, Roy Hone of Siegfried and Roy was attacked during a live performance by Manticore, one of the white tigers. Roy lived but sustained severe injuries in the attack. In an episode from 1990, Bart catches a three-eyed fish named Blinky in the river by the power plant, which makes local headlines. More than a decade later, a three-eyed fish was discovered in a reservoir in Argentina. Strangely enough, the reservoir itself was fed by water from a nuclear power plant.
On August 29, 2001, 13 days before 9/11, Family Guy ran an episode that starts off with mass media murderer, who only targeted news hosts.
The gunman has been identified as the notorious mass media murderer who targets members of the press. Whoa.
And then it shows people jumping from buildings.
Oh my God, Neil, please don't jump.
And it shows the media mocking a person jumping to their death.
Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good
And it
stuff.
shows the media making graphic splat noises.
Hey, have that cartoon sound effect guy cue up the... and then top it off with a...
And just food for thought, think about this clip in relationship to the last clip.
Neil, I'm sorry!
Meg? Uh-oh, there he goes.
A massive number of people fell, or were propelled from these ledges, and it was the emergency help on the ground was saying it was raining people. People were falling out of the air at the rate of 1 every 30 or 40 seconds. But that's not human nature to jump.
Exactly.
If there's time before commercial, be ready with a wah, 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 wah.
And those poor firefighters they're trained to save lives. And they felt so helpless. I think there was even one that they had to watch because he wanted to go out and catch people.
In Season 4, Episode 12, first broadcast in 1993, the episode Marge versus the Monorail was about the town of Springfield collectively deciding to purchase a monorail for the city. In one scene of this episode, there's a poster or picture of some sort on the wall in the background of the scene. It isn't awfully clear, however, it looks very much like one of the two towers of the World Trade Center with smoke around it. In the Season 9 premiere episode airing in 1997 titled The City of New York vs. Homer Simpson, the Simpsons make their way to New York City, specifically to the World Trade Center, so that Homer can pick up their car after Barney drunkenly leaves it there. In this episode, at one point, Lisa shows the family a magazine with the front cover showing a New York tram for $9.
Oh, I'd love to see New York. We could all go with the bus company's special Super Sitter fare. $9? This one's on me.
Holy crap, this is awesome! I haven't felt a rush like this since I won that marathon.
I'm Bob Costas, here with Boston Marathon winner Peter Griffin. Peter, how did you do it?
I'll tell you, Bob, I just got in my car and drove it. And when there was a guy in my way, I killed him. You know, I actually feel really bad for him. Do you know he knew 19 guys who died on 9/11? I mean, what are the odds?
Peter, I think you joined a terrorist sleeper cell.
What? That's crazy. Look, I'm going to call Mahmoud right now on this cell phone he gave me. He'll tell you. Damn phone's busted. Maybe I dialed wrong.
Peter, please stop trying to call Mahmoud.
Not to mention, on American Dad, the night before the Boston Marathon bombing, this episode aired, and listen real close.
I had a blast.
Well, call the bomb squad, because with the blast I had, that makes 2 blasts.
On top of that, the episode of Family Guy where Brian the dog died aired 6 days before Paul Walker died. And if you guys are familiar with the Fast and Furious movies, you'll know that Paul Walker's character's name is Brian. And Brian's Family Guy episode and Paul Walker's death both involved a car accident. So
turntable, and so this morning we played Purple Rain and Delirious just to get warmed up.
Back home in the States, Niagara Falls roared into a new hue. At first for the birthday of Queen Elizabeth, and then for Prince.
Nobody can change your universe except you.
From the Great Wheel in Seattle to landmarks in San Francisco and Los Angeles, America turned to the color of rock royalty. New Orleans Superdome alight, Baltimore beaming.
The world lost a legend.
The rapper The Game penned a new song in Prince's honor. Rest in Purple was posted on SoundCloud mere hours after the news broke.
Everything is purple, I see purple in the sky.
Not only
with this episode of The Simpsons that aired back in 2008 showing the death of Prince. I'll play the clip and I'll continue on a bit more.
Unfortunately, there are certain stars who won't do what we want. What's their problem? They're still alive. And then we thought, who's good at killing celebrities? Me! That's right. Homer, would you be willing to acquire some more accounts for us?
And they want to make you believe that these so-called celebrities are sacrificed when they're not. Just like...
Oh, well, when I saw the State of the Black Union, Dick Gregory really moved me and a lot of my friends. I show it to everybody that comes over the house, especially white folks. What he said affects all of us. He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. And, you know, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time, and so, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And the next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay, and you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails, and he started to say things that hit home so hard, and I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it. Because I was so moved that I had to write the song. The other thing is the first line of the song says I was born on the same plantation in the United States of the red, white, and blue. And we live in a place now that feels just about like a plantation. We're all indentured servants. You know, when I found out there were 8 presidents before George Washington, I wanted to smack somebody.
Robin Williams in the episode from the Family Guy.
Robin Williams death reference compilation of what I've stumbled upon so far.
Hey, look what I found. Wow, authentic Native American remains. Peter, I'd put that back if I were you. You may be disturbing a sacred burial site.
Hey, look, it's Robin Williams. Blah, 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 black preacher voice. Blah, 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 gay Elmer Fudd. I was Robin Williams jumping off point. Okay, religion.
Huh? Religion? You kill me, I kill you, we both go to heaven. 72 virgins. Huh? You might have to help me out with the last 10 or so, because Mr. Happy gets tired.
What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
No, thank you.
No charge.
I do not want it.
But it's free, sir.
If that DVD even touches Roadhouse, I will kill you.
Mwah! Well, I haven't been to temple in a while.
Ah!
Predictive programming. Predictive programming is the Illuminati will prepare you at a subconscious level to see Robin Williams die. They will use popular cartoons and movies and implant subliminal messages and predictive programming in it in order that you get programmed at a subconscious level. Let's just analyze this intelligently and see if this is coincidence. We're going to look at the possibility that Family Guy was used in predictive programming for the Illuminati blood sacrifice of Robin Williams. So this is Betsy McGee's expose on the Boston Marathon and Robin Williams predictive programming pandemonium.
Recent incident that he foreshadowed, where someone may have actually died. Robin Williams' supposed suicide on August 11th, 2014. Immediately preceding the announcement of Robin Williams' death, the BBC Three network just happened to play a repeat of a May 2012 Family Guy episode entitled Viewer Mail No. 2. The show began at 11:25 p.m. London time. The news of the actor's apparent suicide broke at around 11:50 p.m., 25 minutes later. So take a 21-minute show, throw in some commercials, and the completion of the show and the suicide announcement happened at pretty much the exact same time. The episode is broken down into 3 parts. The first part, entitled Chap of the Manor, portrays everyone in the Griffin family except Stewie as British, and says it's brought to you by BBC One, just in case you think it's a fluke that it's shown on BBC Three right before Mr. Williams' death hits the airwaves. At a minute and a half in, the family is watching a game show called Wheel of Politeness. For some reason, the Family Guy animators have elected to give only 2 of the visible spaces on the wheel the correct number of prongs, like the actual wheel from the American game show Wheel of Fortune. The 2 spaces that don't have excess prongs are 300 and 600. So here's a nice backwards 63, which is Mr. Williams' age at the time of his death. The number of prongs is their sneaky way of pointing it out. In the 1998 movie What Dreams May Come, when Robin Williams' character dies and goes to heaven, his spirit guide says this to him.
Last time you saw me, I was 63, stretched out on a cardiac ward. Who wants to be 63 throughout eternity?
Who wants to be 63 throughout eternity?
Yeah, who wants to be 63 throughout eternity? A little later in the same movie, his character's wife commits suicide. The climax of the Family Guy segment is a death that takes place in a tunnel. You'll never guess where Mr. Williams' character is when he dies in the movie What Dreams May Come. A tunnel. This is one of many examples of the Cabal connecting their clues in different places. Like not only showing Lisa Simpson holding up this bus schedule to signify 9/11, but also having Bart Simpson hold up cash in front of it to tell you that 9/11 is laid out step by step in perfect detail on the U.S. money supply. This Brian's Got a Brand New Bag episode that shows the movie What Dreams May Come aired on November 8th, 2009. 11/8 is the date of Williams' death backwards. In the second segment, called Fat Man and Robin, hundreds of Robin Williams clones are shown, and Robin Williams, in various incarnations, stopped Peter Griffin from committing suicide 3 different times. So it's very much about Mr. Williams. This segment begins with a roast of Mr. Williams, especially sickening because Mr. Williams would be cremated immediately after his death. Try as I might, I couldn't find one video on YouTube of a roast with flames on and around the initials of the person being joked about. The story goes that Peter wishes that everyone was Robin Williams. He's given the power to change everyone into Williams, and soon he's done this to pretty much everyone in town, including almost every member of his family. When Peter changes the local news anchor into Robin Williams, both of Williams' hands can be seen making the OK/666 sign, even though he only has 4 fingers, so it doesn't really... Oh, okay, that's better. A world filled with Robin Williamses loses its charm quickly. Peter can't stand the incessant and at times repetitive Robin Williams humor, and, seeing no way out, starts to try various methods of offing himself, but Robin Williams saves him every time. First, Peter tries to shoot himself in the head, but the gun turns into Williams because Peter has touched it. Peter then tries to throw himself in front of a moving car, which also turns into Williams, and Peter bounces right off. Peter then throws himself off a cliff, but the rock at the bottom turns into Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire and cushions his fall. Peter then decides to tell all of the other Williams clones to go forth into the country and spread their comedy, but he orders 5 of them to stay as substitutes for his family. The final scene shows Peter and the 5 family replacement clones sitting at the kitchen table having breakfast. The Williams clones are dressed up like the various family members and are joking amongst themselves. Peter looks like he's lost his mind. Then they zoom in a bit, and the Robin Williams clone replacement for Brian the dog asks Peter to pass the coffee. Peter has cut off his hands in an effort to stop the curse of turning everything into Robin Williams, so we see only bloody stumps as he brings his hands up to the table. Do you see the problem with this scene? Robin Williams is supposed to have died, sitting in a chair, with something tight around his neck, and he also supposedly tried slitting his wrist. Here's an extreme Family Guy-style representation of this. There are only 2 inanimate objects that Peter turns into Williams that aren't directly related to stopping Peter's suicide attempts. One is a teapot, the other is a door. According to the official story, Williams closed one end of the belt he used to kill himself between a door and a door frame. In the third and last segment of the cartoon called Point of Stew, a day of the baby's life is shown from his point of view. At the very beginning we get a quick glimpse of the number 13 that goes by almost too fast to see. Then at bath time, Stewie plays with a shark in the tub. The town of Tiburon is where Robin Williams died, and Tiburon means shark in Spanish. Close to the end, Stewie goes back in time and prevents Kurt Cobain from committing suicide. So this is 4 times that suicide is mentioned in one way or another during a 21-minute-long Family Guy cartoon that heavily features Robin Williams, shown on the date of his death and ending almost exactly when news of Mr. Williams' death hit the airwaves. This is also the 20th anniversary of Cobain's very suspicious suicide, with his band being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year and new evidence from the death scene being released. Then Stewie's mom reads him a bedtime story called Goodnight Town from Footloose. How random, right? Except for the fact that the main character in Footloose is from Chicago, just like the person whose death via faked suicide is foreshadowed in this cartoon.
In the context of the episode, Brian and Stewie go back to the pilot episode of Family Guy, which aired in 1999. And they go back in time for other reasons, and while he's there, Brian tells himself about 9/11. And so he successfully prevents 9/11 from happening. He come back to the future, and he looks in his laptop. Okay, let's see if it worked. Let's see if it worked. There it is, 9/11. We made 9/11 happen. High five. And he then says, you know, I suppose taken out of context, that probably wouldn't look very good, would it?
There you were. You were booked on the flight, I think, from Boston that hit the South Tower. Mm-hmm. And you didn't get on it. Why?
A combination of 2 things. I was giving a lecture at my college the night before and went out with some of the faculty afterwards and had a few pints. And
you got drunk?
Yes. And coupled with the fact that my travel agent had listed the flight on my itinerary as leaving 10 minutes later than it did.
So to recap, McFarlane foreshadowed the hell out of the Boston mess. 29 days before, his cartoon referenced terrorists from Russia, a conversion to Islam, a library which is where the first fake bomb went off, the M&Ms in the victim injury scenery, dead bodies, body parts, and blood on the streets of the Boston Marathon.
So you'll have to watch
2 bombs detonated a few seconds apart by cell phone. A reference to normal procedure not being followed after the arrest of Muslims. Allusion to both the Muslims and the fake cowboy hat hero right in the name of the episode. And the night before on a different cartoon by Seth MacFarlane, a reference to 2 blasts and the bomb squad. And don't forget the horse whisperer mentioned at the very beginning, a movie in which the main character has had to have her leg amputated. As for foreshadowing Robin Williams' death, we see a backwards 63, Williams' age at the time of death pointed out, an allusion to death in a tunnel, like Williams' character in another movie about death and suicide, which also foreshadows his age at death, Williams preventing suicide 3 different times in the middle segment. Mr. Williams, represented in the final scene of that segment, is sitting in a chair with something tight around his neck, which is how he's supposed to have died. Another person at the same table in this scene with his hands cut off, an extreme way of alluding to slit wrists. One of 2 inanimate objects in the entire cartoon not involved in stopping a suicide, changed into Williams being an item used in the supposed suicide. Covert satanic numerology in the 2 666s and the 13 on the block. Sneaky mentions of the town where Mr. Williams was born and the town where he died. Another suicide prevented in the final segment, which also serves to reference another celebrity who supposedly killed himself while still quite popular and under very sketchy circumstances 20 years ago. and the episode with all of this in it, replayed on the date of Mr. Williams' death, the end of the episode coinciding with the death announcement.
Now, this may just be the biggest Simpsons prediction of them all. In 2016, Donald Trump became President of the United States. Way back in the year 2000, during the 11th season of the show, for episode 17, Bart to the Future, another episode set in the future, the focus is on how the lives of the different Simpsons characters have panned out over the years. One of these subplots is that Lisa has become President of the United States. At one point, she mentions that Donald Trump was president before her. Now, as shocking as that may be, it gets even more bizarre. In real life, when Donald Trump announced that he was running for president, there was a moment when he walked.
In an episode from 2000, The Simpsons predicted that Donald Trump was going to be the president of the United States of America. Writer Dan Greeny explained why they had predicted a Trump presidency. He said, "It was a warning to America that just seemed like the logical last stop before hitting bottom. It was consistent with the vision of America going insane. What we needed was for Lisa to have problems beyond her fixing, that everything went as bad as it possibly could, and that's why we had Trump be president before her."
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
The country is broke? How can that be?
An escalator in a blue suit and red tie. This exact same moment was shown on The Simpsons. That's pretty creepy as it is, but it gets even weirder as the election map on the day of the presidential vote is shown. The election map colors each state in either blue or red, depending on the overall vote of that state as to who they collectively voted for. And guess what? The Simpsons successfully predicted the exact color combination of this map before the election took place. How? No one knows. But there we have it.
A viral image that appears to show a Simpsons version of Donald Trump inside a coffin at his funeral is actually fake. The image has been shared widely on social media, with many claiming that The Simpsons is predicting Trump's death in office. But the animated show has never aired an episode with such a storyline. The image itself appears to have originated on 4chan. There's also no evidence that the Huffington Post has ever ran a story on it, despite the watermark on the image.
Death! Ah, thank God you're here. Listen, you gotta send me back in time again so I can marry Lois.
Man, it's been a busy day. Dick Cheney, the chairman of Halliburton, shot Supreme Court Justice Scalia in a hunting accident, and a bullet went right through him and killed Karl Rove and Tucker Carlson. Oh my God.
Miss Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
And I should do very well because I don't charge.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman
we
president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay. She does this.
Rivers, going back here, I'll play this clip as well. Supposedly before she died, she went into a induced coma and then passed away. Take a listen again to this episode of The Simpsons.
Is it over? Can I open my eyes? Hey, come on, wake up! Hey, come on, wake up! Hey, come on, wake up!
And there you see this episode with the 322, a reference to Skull and Bones. Just like members George Bush and John Kerry, the 322. Of course, as I've taken a closer look at the creator of The Simpsons, with Matt Groening of The Simpsons, as you can see, doing a Masonic hand sign holding the glasses, and the 33-cent store. For those that haven't seen my previous videos, it's all about the occult of 33. the highest degree in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry.
Ugh, look, there's Brody Jenner. God, what a douchebag. I can't believe that came out of Bruce Jenner's vagina.
Bruce Jenner is a man.
No, Brian. That's what the press would have you believe, but he's not. Bruce Jenner is a woman. An elegant, beautiful Dutch woman.
All right, boys, go get him over there. And now, please welcome Mr. Bruce Jenner. Just wanted to remind you fellas what you're all fighting for.
I never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain. I only wanted one time to see you laughing, babe. Only wanna see you laughing, yeah. In the purple rain, purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. That's alright. Come on, y'all. Purple rain, purple rain. Oh yes. Don't it feel good? Only wanna see you, see you. Can I play this guitar?
propelled from these ledges, and it was the emergency help on the ground was saying it was raining people. People were falling out of the air at the rate of 1 every 30 or 40 seconds. But that's not human nature to jump.
Exactly.
If there's time before commercial, be ready with a wah, 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 wah.
And those poor firefighters they're trained to save lives. And he felt so helpless. I think there was even one that they had to watch because he wanted to go out and catch people.
In Season 4, Episode 12, first broadcast in 1993, the episode Marge versus the Monorail was about the town of Springfield collectively deciding to purchase a monorail for the city. In one scene of this episode, there's a post.
Mitt Romney. Some people maintain that The Simpsons predicted the 2014 outbreak of Ebola 17 years before it happened. In a scene from the episode Lisa Sachs, Marge suggests to a sick bot to read a book titled Curious George and the Ebola Virus. Ebola was first discovered in 1976, and though the latest outbreak has been the worst yet, It killed 254 people in the Congo in 1995 and 224 people in Uganda in 2000. The Simpsons parodied entertainers Siegfried and Roy in a night. The longest running American sitcom ever, has eerily predicted a number of events. In 2008, The Simpsons showed Homer trying to vote for Barack Obama in the US general election, but a faulty machine changed his vote. 4 years later, a voting machine in Pennsylvania had to be removed after it kept changing people's votes for Barack Obama to ones for his Republican rival.
One Family Guy ran an episode that starts off with mass media murderer, who only targeted news hosts.
The gunman has been identified as the notorious mass media murderer who targets members of the press. Whoa.
And then it shows people jumping from buildings.
Oh my god, Neil, please don't jump.
And it shows the media mocking a person jumping to their death.
Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff.
And it shows the media making graphic splat noises.
Hey, have that cartoon sound effect guy cue up the... and then top it off with a...
And just food for thought, think about this clip in relationship to the last clip.
Neil, I'm sorry!
Meg? Uh-oh, there we go.
A massive number of people jumped, fell, or were...
1993 episode. The magicians are viciously mauled by a trained white tiger while performing in a casino. In 2003, Roy Hone of Siegfried and Roy was attacked during a live performance by Manticore, one of the white tigers. Roy lived but sustained severe injuries in the attack. In an episode from 1990, Bart catches a three-eyed fish named Blinky in the river by the power plant, which makes local headlines. More than a decade later, a three-eyed fish was discovered in a reservoir in Argentina. Strangely enough, the reservoir itself was fed by water from a nuclear power plant.
On August 29, 2001, 13 days before 9/11,